know that he will. Oh, opens doors that I cannot see. Jesus will. Jesus will. Oh, and who will make all my decisions for me? Jesus will. Ooh, Jesus will. Everybody say, who opens doors?
Who opens doors that I cannot see?
Let me see you wave your hand.
Jesus will.
If you really know that Jesus will.
Jesus will.
And who will make all my decisions for me?
Who will make all
Anybody know that
my
he will?
decisions
Have you really tried
for
him
me?
and you found out that he will?
Jesus will.
Hey, I tried him and I know he will.
Jesus will.
Hey, everybody say when I'm in trouble.
When I'm in trouble,
He gives me a
song.
And in my night season,
In the night season,
and all the day
and
long,
all the day
and
long.
who makes me do right?
Who makes me do right?
I would do
When
wrong.
I would do wrong, Jesus will. Jesus will.
Hey, everybody say when I'm in trouble.
When I'm in trouble,
He gives me a
He
song.
gives me a
Yes, he
song.
does. In my night season,
In the night season,
and all the day
and
long.
all the day long.
Somebody say, who makes me do
Who makes me do
right?
right?
I would do
When
wrong.
I would do wrong, Jesus will. Jesus will.
Everybody say, oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Jesus will.
Jesus will.
I know he will because he said he will.
Oh yeah. Jesus will. I know he will.
He said he will.
He said he will.
He'll fight my battle.
He'll fight my battle.
If I keep still.
If I keep still.
If I keep still. I know that he will. I tried him and I know he will.
Jesus will.
Take it up, say, oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Jesus will.
I know he will, because he said in his word that he
Oh,
will.
yeah.
I ain't gotta worry about what I'm going through, y'all.
Jesus will.
I know he will.
I know he
Hello, and welcome to In His Presence. I'm your host, Johnnie Jackson. I am so excited to have with us today our musical guest, Miss Karla Clay-Alexander. But on top of that, we have with us the phenomenal Mr. Thomas L. Troutman, and his lovely mother is with him today, Tamiko Troutman, and we are going to have a great time. There is so much going on. So with that, let's get started. Thomas L. Troutman is a world-renowned entertainer, producer, choreographer, and teacher. He started his entertainment and musical journey when he was just 2 years of age, singing church songs and acting in front of audiences of close family and friends. Thomas began dancing and acting in countless productions at his home church when he was only 4 years old. He and his family are entertainers. His family band, the legendary Zapp and Roger Troutman. And unlike most children at the age of 7 and 10, Thomas did not play with toys. He had a creative mind and would gather costumes and create an entire concert. So we know that is something very unusual. And I'd like to say that I've known this young man since he was a little older than a toddler, I believe. Met him at Omega. And anyone that comes into his presence knows that there's an anointing in his life. Extraordinary dancer, just a gifted individual. So Thomas L. Troutman.
That is me.
And the woman who is equally talented and gave birth to this young man, his mother, Tamiko Troutman, is with us. And Thomas, tell us how you got started.
Well, there are several layers to this story, but I really was inspired by my family, by my dad, who goes by the name of Zapp, that's his nickname, Terry Troutman, and my uncle Roger Troutman, rest his soul. But I was very inspired by both of them growing up. I spent a lot of time, even though I was young, I spent a lot of time with my uncle Roger, and he taught me so many things. He was so comical. And, he taught me about integrity before I really could understand what integrity was. And so to be able to expand that knowledge from him and touring with my family and my dad and just the wisdom that all of my uncles and family have taught me, I'm just excited for this year, for this season. I've been claiming 2020 as a takeoff season because, I think when a lot of artists get started and, they're multi-talented and multifaceted, people see the success, the pinnacle of their success, or they see them come into the industry and they're like, man, this happened overnight. But for me, this has been a lifelong journey, and professionally for the last 10 or 11 years, so I'm really excited to continue to expand, but that is how I started, is watching my family.
Wonderful. Now, giving birth to this young man, so that DNA, that's in him, it's in you as well. So tell us, how was it raising this talented young man?
Well, he can only remember, like I said earlier, a portion, but this has been in the making since birth. My husband and I always say since the car seat.
Okay.
Most children, you have to turn the music down, but we would have to turn it up in order for him to stay asleep.
Okay.
So he started singing and performing in the car seat.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. So that's all. He never played with toys, as he states in his bio. He always found a way to take things that are old costumes from the group Zapp and Roger and use it. He would imitate Pastor Ward. He would imitate the choir. He was everything. He was the choir director. And he was the choir, so he would direct at the bottom of the stairs and then run up the stairs and stand at the balcony and then sing the parts he had just directed and then run back down like for hours. That's the only thing he would do.
Or
awesome.
with stuffed animals. That was the rest of the choir.
That was the rest of the choir. Or I would go around our home, probably about 7 or 8 years old, trying to turn on lights, but I had no lamps.
Okay.
Because they were all outside.
Okay.
And he's gone around and invited the entire neighborhood to a concert. And I would look outside and there will be chairs and people sitting in the chairs and neighbors lined up, sitting on top of their cars, watching him perform in the backyard.
He was writing the vision.
Yes.
making it plain. And look at God.
Yes.
Oh, but you know what? Like I said, his DNA, some of that, I mean, it's from you too, because I know you are a gifted praise dancer.
Yes, ma'am.
Love to see you dance in the church.
Thank
and
you.
It's just a blessing. I was reading, though, that you, Thomas, had encountered some bullying.
Absolutely.
Really?
I did. You know, really growing up, I think a turning point for me, which is, you know, it's really supernatural or just kind of far-fetched. But when my uncles passed, you know, which is a tragedy that I'm able to be more transparent about now. But I was 7 years old. And like I said before, I've always been advanced. I've always known what was going on and had some level of discernment. So when they passed away, like that, my Uncle Roger was my best friend before I understood what best friends were, you know, and there were a lot of times that we spent, before I went to school, I would go on tour with them, especially, you know, spring and summer. And so a lot of times, you know, it's funny, but my uncle, he was very reserved, slightly introverted at some points. And so he wouldn't let people go like to the music store, you know, sometimes, and I think I understand this now being an artist, but sometimes you want to break away from your team and from your family for just a moment to just kind of gather yourself. And so he would go to a music store or to a gas station and get hot tamales, and he would look for me in the venues. I remember one time, and she can attest to this part, we were in San Antonio, Texas, or maybe it was El Paso, but we were at a really big concert in the Aladome, and I had a Lakers pullover jacket that she had just bought for me, and I left it in that venue because he was looking for me, and I was under the stage, and you know, I would just run around, and I was maybe 4 or 5 years old, and he looked all over the venue before he went to a music store. He found me. He was like, "Man, come on, I've been looking for you forever."
Oh,
but
my.
when he passed, you know, him and my Uncle Larry, they were a significant part of my growth even today, because my Uncle Larry as well, he would gather all of us, you know, his children, my dad's children, all of my uncle's children. He would take us to play laser tag or out to eat or to the mall. So losing them at the same time on the same day, you know, the impact for me, even being so young, it really invited the spirit of depression in. And at that point, I didn't know how to really resist the enemy. I knew I had the gifts, and I always have, but I didn't know how to resist that. So when I turned 7, I was in second grade, first grade when that happened. Then through second grade, all the way through high school, maybe my junior or senior year in high school, I did experience bullying in so many different forms, from physical abuse, you know, sexual abuse, and then being around peers who could not allow me to be kind and not expect something different, or expected something different, because even in elementary, those kids would, you know, they were trying to fit in. They started creating these cliques, and they would talk about me because of my kindness, and I didn't understand it. And so I went to what I knew was a freedom place for me, which was creating shows, even in my head, you know, like the work, I was very advanced. So I would finish my work and have a lot of time. So I would play with my lunch money up until lunch. So I would take the change, and, you know, I would always be a quarter or a nickel because it's silver, and I'll take 10 pennies, and I'm like, okay, this is what the set would look like. These are the dancers. I'm here in the middle. And then I would take other change and put the band where they would be on my books. And that was just a way for me to get to kind of break away from what the students were doing. So then another layer of that bullying for me was some of the teachers and some of the, you know, staff members were bullying me as well, because they're like, "Oh, well, you're a nuisance." And it's like, well, I'm not doing anything but wanting to be separate from the people who are bothering me. So when I would tell teachers, or, you know, tell a staff member, he hit me or he said this thing about me, they would just basically say, "Oh, well, what did you do to him?" Or, you know, "Well, why did he do this?" And it's like, I didn't do anything. I'm in my own world, and they're coming and pushing, you know, the change off the table, or they're breaking my pencil, or like, there's so many things. It was very traumatic for me, because all I wanted was to share kindness and abundance with people. And I did, like, and you said something really powerful, is, you know, writing the vision. And even at that age, that's exactly what I was doing. I didn't even understand it yet.
Right. Now, him dealing with that, as a parent, how did you help him through that? What was, I mean, because this is important, I believe,
Yes. Oh,
yeah,
because kids are dealing with this today, the bullying.
They are.
So if you have advice that can help someone else,
Yes.
that would be wonderful.
Well, I didn't know that the bullying was this extensive until, and I'm going to let you lead in a little later, but until he was probably a junior in high school. Okay. However, I would tell the teachers, listen, Thomas is very creative and he will think of a dance and just jump up and do it. So, just ask him to sit down. And he would tell me how the adults were treating him. And so I had the freedom of my own time. So I would take my briefcase and my work and I would sit in the classroom and do my work. But that only lasts as long as I'm in the classroom. So as soon as I leave, then the bullying started to happen again. Like one Christmas break, he broke his toe. And the students stepped on his toe on purpose once they returned to school. Then I removed him from that school, and he began to attend the Omega School of Excellence. Okay. But because I think because of my husband's career, that people thought that we either had too much or, too much attention, because it still happens.
Entitled.
And we didn't feel that. We felt blessed to be able to share. And I taught my children to share and to care for others. But, even as an adult, the bullying is kind of hard to deal with. Now, the advice that I would give to parents is that, one, be more present in your child's school. Just don't send them to school and never show up, because the parents who don't show up, the teachers are definitely, not all, but too many, are not supporting the student. So it's really important for parents or families together to be involved. We have a lot of issues in our school system, but we need everyone. I call myself a paid volunteer right now because I work for the Troutman City Schools. Last year I was at the high school. This year I'm at the Early Learning Center. So I see the end, and now I'm working within the beginning. And if a family really wants to know what to do in order to help their children, become not depressed, because it's happening, the anxiety, but they don't know how to express it. Like Thomas just explained, it's a hard expression, even for us as adults.
That's right. So being present is excellent advice. Yes. Being present in the school and just questioning your child too, making sure they're okay.
Having general conversation and not present in a confrontational way. Right. Present with the intentions to build a relationship, so that the parents know, so the educator know the parents know the educator, and then you just do things differently when you have a relationship with a person.
Exactly. But I know the both of them attend Omega, the church I attend, and they are both present. They are God-fearing, good people. And that's why when I read that, I was like shocked, because everybody loves Thomas. Everybody loves Thomas. And to know that he had experienced bullying, that kind of hurt me, that he had to deal with something like that. But also, you've traveled. I had an opportunity. I know you didn't know I was there. Oh, wow. But I had an opportunity to see you perform on stage with your dad. I believe we were in Hamilton, Ohio. Oh, wow. And I went, is that Thomas? On stage, doing a phenomenal job. And but yes, I was out there in that crowd, and you've been on tour with them. What, you did that for how many years?
For 9 years. I started touring as by the time I started touring, I had made friends, kind of come out of that stage of bullying, And so, my friends at school would call me Hannah Montana because, the Disney show, because one day she'd be Hannah Montana and one day she'd be Miley. And I kind of experienced that. I started touring toward the end of my junior year in high school. I was 17. So as I toured through the rest of junior year and senior year, I would miss a lot of school. But the loophole was that we had a senior project, and my senior project is what I've always wanted to do, and that is the ins and outs of staging a musical production. And so being on tour, I was able to get, direct footage and information from the production managers and from experiencing as an artist as well. So I toured for 9 years. It was the best experience that I think I've ever had, and it was way better than college. I went to 2 universities. I didn't finish my degree, and maybe in the future I'll go back and finish. But I went to Sinclair right after high school, and my professor there, she said, "Hey, I've been a professor for 30 years. I've never seen a student as talented as you. You have so much going on. School will always be here, but I think experience is going to be the best teacher for you." So I stopped going to Sinclair. I was dancing with DC at the time.
Okay.
And I had to cut that first short season kind of short right before our spring concert because the touring picked up. So, I've been to Japan and China, Mexico and Europe and all of these places. And it was just an amazing experience to see these different cultures and to be so young. The first time I went to Japan, I was a senior in high school. I missed my senior dinner dance because I was on tour in Japan, at 18 years old. And just to go there so many different times and to be able to bring that energy and experience back, it's just that is by far one of the best experiences that I've had. It's being on the road and just learning that way.
But now, you and your mother created together this wonderful Dayton dance workshop.
Absolutely.
So we're going to see a clip of you guys performing, but I'd like for you to tell us about the Dayton workshop.
Well, Dayton Dance Workshop, Thomas was 18 years old, and he said, "Mom, I want to do my first single project, CD project." And I was thinking, he's like, "I was traveling, and I see this body of work, and I want to put it on some real bodies." I was like, "Okay." So he did it once. He did his first CD project, and we did the dance concert all in the same evening. So what was that, four
that
weeks?
That one was it was about 6 weeks.
So a six weeks workshop, any age. Our oldest dancer was 62, and so we had this beautiful performance. And then he wanted to do it again. I'm like, "Oh, hold on," And I sponsored both projects. I'm like, "You're gonna do it again?" "Oh no, we have to make the Dayton Dance Workshop a nonprofit organization because you can't be playing around with my money."
Okay.
And so we went from there, and then we did an 8-week workshop, and it's just been beautiful. We're on our 3rd group of college graduates. Let me back up because I'm kind of speeding ahead. So we just continue for the first 9 years. We have no grants, no loans. We just did a $20,000 performance was the cost of most, between $18,000 and $20,000, with our personal money and donations from friends, family, and fans.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
Mostly out of town, so we would really love to have support from our local support, but that's how we got started.
Well,
don't whisper when you say that.
Absolutely.
Because I used to be in the promotion business, and I promoted different artists, and got great support everywhere but home.
Yes.
And we need to support our own.
Absolutely.
That is so important.
And the reason we're doing this is because our community, we don't get to go to dance. I started dancing when I was 5. I shouldn't have been on the dance team, but I went to Townview Elementary School, and they let me stay. They got this little cute bodysuit that came in and had a little skirt that only fit me. And so I danced from kindergarten to 5th grade. 6th grade, I was so excited. We were supposed to get our trophy. They cut the program. I remember it to this day. I was devastated because they no longer had the funds. This is in, the late 70s.
Okay.
But my mother didn't have the funds so that I can go to Geraldine. All the parents girls who parents had, worked for GM or had a nice paycheck, went to Geraldine. My mom couldn't afford that.
Okay.
So this is really true to my heart, is that we have to provide these experiences
Yes.
for our community. Our
Yes.
children deserve to go beyond the 4-block radius of Main Street, East Main Street in Troutman.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And there are a lot of parallels between her story and mine. And as I continue to just find humility as a young man and listen to understand her story and my father's story and understand why they've poured into me so much. So she didn't get a chance to dance with Geraldine, but I'm a product of DCDC, and just to kind of go back a little bit, I started choreographing when I was probably 12 or 13 years old. One of the first productions that I choreographed was High School Musical with residents in Praise Fine Arts Center. And that was the first spark. And then I didn't take my first ballet class or any class, honestly, until I was with DCDC2, my first season at 18. So when I finished that first season, I just finished my senior year in high school. So this was around the same time that I had to leave DCDC. Was around the same time that I stopped going to Sinclair because I was touring so much. And this was in 2010. And prior to that, I was teaching and choreographing productions in high school my senior year. So that was kind of the foundation of Dayton Dance Workshop, because I didn't have a name, but I had students, and I had this opportunity to start developing bodies of work. And then our first official production was in 2011, which is the one she was talking about, which was Stand Out. And that was the first one. And right before that, I'd released my first album, Pressure, in 2011 on May 31st, re-released it again in August. And I was on my first headlining tour as a solo artist. So we went, we did several shows in Dayton, different venues, Cincinnati, Hamilton, Columbus, and started to really build a fan base. And so those dancers that were with me there and the dancers at Trotwood and some from Omega came into Dayton Dance Workshop. And from there, we continued on. And so to be celebrating 10 years of really everything, the start of my career, of Dayton Dance Workshop, and my musical endeavors, it's just a really exciting year, which is why I'm like, okay, this is takeoff season for everything, because it's been such a labor of love. But there have been also a lot of tragic things and a lot of trauma, but that is where you heal the most. And what I understood is a couple of things. The first one is what you mentioned, is that a lot of times you get support from outside of your home, and you have to go away and come back, and then people are going to respect you. Well, that happened with Christ.
Right.
And it's in Scripture that you have to go out of your home in order to be accepted by your home. And so when we pattern our lives after Scripture and we're obedient, and we do 2 Timothy 2:15, he says, study to show thyself approved.
Right.
We start going and dissecting the precepts of his word and applying them to our lives. Then he will start to expand us. This whole spiritual journey, and really the true healing started for me maybe 2 years ago, from everything from 7 to 26, when I came across Matthew 6:33. And that says, seek ye first the kingdom of the Most High and his righteousness. And then there's a semicolon there, which is a pause in the thought.
Right.
So that's two parts. The first part is seek the kingdom. I say, well, Father, what does it mean to seek your kingdom? He said, oh, you're asking and you mean it? Okay, let me show you. And so all of these gifts and tools were submerged. So I didn't have the desire to sing or dance or speak or anything, because I needed the healing, and I need to understand his word and how it applies to me. And so within the last year, The second part of that scripture, Matthew 6:33, says, then these things will be added to you. Then all these things will be added unto you. And so now he's starting to add them to me on such a level that I couldn't even understand. So you also talked about prophecy or writing the vision. Well, my first 2 albums, in that time that I was seeking the kingdom, I didn't listen to them. I have a song called Fearless. And I listened to that. I was in LA visiting my sister. It was around like the holiday season. And my parents, my family was there, and then they left, and me and my sister had maybe 3 or 4 days that we just hung out, and I called her twin. That's been my road dog since she was born. I asked for her. But I was listening to my song Fearless, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what I felt when I wrote this song. And at that point, it's maybe 5 years ago. But now I understand what I meant by I'm going to swallow my pride. Can't take hold of me. I'm over it. Fear can't stop me now. So that inspired me to go to the beginning, which was pressure, and started the introduction. When I heard the introduction, I'm like, oh my gosh, I was writing the prophecy of my life, and I hadn't even spiritually experienced it. I had the physical and carnal experiences of the songs that I wrote on Pressure and Battlefield, but I hadn't experienced it. But I say in the introduction, my purpose here is inspiration. My destiny has been written. If you cannot handle truth, then take the CD out the player. Philippians 4:13 says this, I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. And I believe it.
You better preach.
And at that point, and so
You
listening to
better
that,
preach.
I was in tears already from Fearless. And then I cried more tears because I'm like, I didn't even understand what I was saying. So as I go through these songs and I get to Battlefield, the Battlefield album, the first song on that album is Battlefield. And I was talking about spiritual warfare.
Right.
And then the line that made me boohoo cry again was, first battle won is the one in your mind. Keep him first and you'll win every time. I'm like, these are my lyrics. I said, nah, Father, you had my spirit writing for me because I was still in my carnal mind when I was writing about these spiritual things. And so, when you're going through that success path, you realize that your spirit is a lot of times until you make a commitment to the Father, your spirit is imprisoned by your flesh. And so all of these things that your spirit understands, your flesh, they're at war with each other, the spirit and the flesh. And so as I went through those albums and I went through, this kind of being in love or explaining what love is like from the conversations that I've had on Battlefield, some love songs on there. And then I got back around to Fearless. And so it's like, I started the song with Fearless, and I felt like the first verse that says, I'm having trouble sleeping tonight, which inspired. I was like 2 or 3 in the morning when I started listening to that song. And by the end of it, I'm saying no more fear, no more pain, no more anxiety. And by the end of it, the very end of the song, I say, be fearless, you're fearless. And what I realized is when I wrote that song, it was coming from a spiritual place so that I could hear it at this time and say, hey, this song is really for you. And it's for all of these people who are facing fear. Fear is our biggest opponent. Yeah. And so getting into this season of transition, which is the theme of the Dayton Dance Workshop 10-year anniversary, like I'm really at the pinnacle of a transition. It's like starting the next decade of this journey and understanding that I had to go through everything I've been through, and now it's time to level up because I'm spiritually ready. So understanding now that I'm even more passionate about my gifts, the dancing, the singing, the speaking, those things are just the tools. But my ultimate life mission at this point is to break strongholds and heal people with my testimony, and I want people to understand who I am as Thomas Troutman, and not the emphasis on my last name, but on who the Father has called me to be as Thomas. Because I think the perspective that people have of me is exactly what my mom was explaining, is that I have everything, things have been handed to me and I'm entitled. Actually, my dad said when you turn 18, you got to go. You got to make it on your own. And they've supported me through that. But I've had to learn how to do these things on my own. And I had to become a man in my own right. And I want people to know my story. Not as under the shadow of my family, but as a continuation of that legacy. Because I used to resist the legacy as well because of the expectation. I rejected that. I'm like, yeah, I'm musical, but I don't want to be Thomas Troutman Zapp's son or Roger's nephew. I want people to know who Thomas Troutman is. But then I humbled myself in the midst of this hiatus and said, you know what? In order for you to be humble and for you to be fearless, if you call your fans Team Fearless and you're talking about conquering fear and challenges every day, you got to be humble. And you have to understand that legacy is a part of your story. And so now I embrace it because I know I needed that time to resist it, because then the Father showed me what faith can do when you have abundant, unwavering faith. Then he'll start opening doors that no man can open or shut.
Oh. Young people, you need to hear this.
Absolutely.
You need to hear this. It's amazing. It's incredible. Now, you said you were getting ready to take off, or
Yes.
what was the term?
Takeoff season.
Takeoff season. What does that mean to Thomas Troutman? I mean, what does it feel like? How do you know that you're about to take off?
Well, I think to make it as simple as possible is now I know who I am. I know what my identity is. And before anything else, as I continue to grow in wisdom and knowledge, the word is what, has defined who I am. And what my favorite scripture is Jeremiah 29, verse 11 through 14. And this is, another part to my story. When I was a freshman in high school, and I won't go too deep in this, but that was like the pinnacle of my depression, and I had suicidal thoughts. I lightly tried to commit suicide when I was a freshman in high school. The following year, when I was a sophomore, every day from the first day of my sophomore year until a friend of mine texted me Jeremiah 29, 11 through 14, I would see 11:14 every morning and every night for almost a year. And I still see it most days now.
Okay.
And when she sent me that scripture, the first thing that I saw was, "For I know the plans I have for you." Mm-hmm. And then so as I've grown and understanding the part where he says, "I will send you into exile," I've been in that exile. And, that's not something that happens once. But that first time you go into the valley, you're like, oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
And then you really start to become David in Psalms when he's begging, like, "Father, I know I messed up, but please don't leave me here, because my heart desires you, even though I mess up, even though I sin. I have a broken and contrite spirit. I'm repentful, and I seek for you to forgive so that I can grow, because I know when I really mean forgive me, Father, you forget, but I don't." And I think people, they condemn a lot of people for not understanding that.
What a powerful message for our millennials, our
Yes.
young people, for anyone, even us old folks need to hear. But that is such a powerful, powerful message. And I just see your platform just getting higher
Yes, take
and
off
higher.
season. Hashtag that.
Yeah.
Hashtag Team Fearless. Hashtag takeoff
Yes.
season. So to answer your question, because that was a significant part of it, but takeoff season for me means exactly, it's so simple because I've done the groundwork. We've, a lot of us, I won't say everyone, but we've been through the whole process of getting on a flight. When you're flying across the country, you're flying out overseas. So when you get there, you grab your bags out the car, you go through airport security and check in, you sit in the terminal for a while, then you get on the plane, you have to sit a little bit more. But once they, close those doors and they give you the whole safety, so this is how my brain works. So I always have to compare or line up my vision with something actually visual. So I'm at the point now where we are on the runway, and not even on the runway. The fall, this past fall was like runway.
Okay.
And the plane was speeding up. Now, as of March 2nd, I woke up. I think that was last Monday morning. On March 2nd, I woke up everything is here. Everything is here. Everything that I've prayed for, not just in the preparation from, November to now, but everything that I've prayed for my entire life, it clicked. I hope you're ready. It's sometimes you hear the still small voice.
Yes.
And sometimes it's your voice, but it's from the Father.
Yes.
It's I hope you're ready. And prior to that, just recently I had a dream that I won't go into any details about, but preparation is that whole season. He was like, get ready. Now it's here. So the wheels are up. we are busting through the clouds, and the expansion is happening right now.
And he's been preparing you for your entire life. Like, even with all of your trials and your journey, it has to be your journey.
Absolutely.
But I've just been the calm or the storm.
Come on now.
Just depends on what's necessary at the moment. But when he was going through his storm, I just stayed calm and was very supportive and encouraging and not nagging, because I can see, okay, Lord, you're working with him, because we go into those valleys. He needs us there at times so we can know that we're not depending on ourselves.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's where our growth is.
Yes.
That's where our growth is, in the valley.
Yes.
And in the valley, you know, I always am so grateful at moments like this when the word just starts to pour out of me because of the revelations through that journey. You know, in the valley, you know, a lot of us look at the valley as the worst place to be. You know, and a lot of us look at the dark places in life as a bad thing. But the Father revealed to me, don't you understand that darkness is the beginning of a thing?
Yes.
The world started in darkness.
Yes.
And as much chaos is going on, look at those of us who are being obedient to his word. We're not worried about anything. Not worried about a single thing. And so in the valley, in the midst of that, you can use it to your advantage spiritually, because in the valley is when you collect what you need to hike up the mountain. So you
Like
get
all
that
that,
nutrition.
like all that toilet paper out the store. I'm like, if y'all don't calm down, do we trust the Lord or not? You've been in church 40 years and you worried. Why? He
That's
said
right.
it will happen. Why are you acting surprised?
That's right. That's right. And he was in control back then, and he's still in control.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know,
And he's written it.
I know that people have concerns, but, you know, is it going to resolve the issue, your concerns, or are you going to pray?
And be
Are you gonna-
faithful.
Exactly.
That he said that he's going
Be
to do what he
faithful.
said. It's in the word. Everything that's happening right now is, well, you know, I can't say plainly for everyone, because some people's hearts are not circumcised to understand his word spiritually. But he wrote these things. He said,
Exactly.
if you love me, keep my commandments. So if you're keeping the commandments and you're being obedient and you're asking him to fill you up with his wisdom and knowledge, and you're applying it, okay, then you have nothing to be worried about, because he said, count it all joy. And that his burden is light.
Read Psalms 91.
Come on now.
People. Psalms 91.
Thank you, Father.
It will give you some peace
Seriously.
over everything that's
Some
going on in this
shalom.
world right
Oh
now.
my God.
But I want to go back to the Dayton Dance Workshop, because you guys have an important event coming
Absolutely.
up.
This is the kickoff of the year.
Dance moves the soul and engages thought-provoking change. That's what we've done here for 10 years at the Dayton Dance Workshop, and it all started here. Since 2010, when we started cultivating dance for families, and our first premiere performance in 2011, the Dayton Dance Workshop has changed the lives of hundreds of new artists in performing arts and moved over 30,000 lives during our productions and performances. I'm Thomas L. Troutman, founder and artistic director of the Dayton Dance Workshop. And in this video, I want to share with you the journey of how this went from my dream to your Dayton Dance Workshop. The dream started for me in 2010 as a graduate from Trotwood Madison High School. I was touring the world as a musician and dancer, and I had just finished my first season of professional dance with the Dayton Contemporary Dance Company. When I finished that first season at DCDC, I wanted more. I wanted to create and open opportunities for dancers just like me, who started late and wanted to keep growing in dance. Typically, dance studios stop training at 17 or 18, so I thought to myself, where do dancers like me go to train like professionals, but in an environment created to express their uniqueness despite their older than usual age? I started choreographing works at churches and in various places like my alma mater for the rest of 2010, but that still wasn't enough. Thus, the Dayton Dance Workshop was given a name and off to the races to sew into other dancers and families like me and my mother. From 2011 to 2016, we created bonds with our friends and new faces from all over, right here in Troutwood and Dayton, and built a reputation that would move mountains and have us to perform on stages all around Dayton, Cincinnati, and even other states like Alabama, Tennessee, and Georgia. Then came a new wave at DDW with one of our biggest and most engaging works to date, Roots. The Roots era introduced a partnership with the city of Troutwood and opened a new chapter and new space for DDW. We finished our Roots production right here and immediately started work on Praise Beyond Circumstance. Little did I know the weight, wisdom, and irony that season would foreshadow. After the success of Praise Beyond Circumstance, the Dayton Dance Workshop became a nonprofit organization. During our time in what I like to call Chapter 2, DDW experienced the valley most organizations face at some point on their way to success and healing. And sometimes it was really dark. 2016 to 2018 brought forth challenges that monumentally prepared us for this transition season. We lost a lot of students and families because, hey, time waits for no one. And our students grew from blossoming pioneers of the Dayton Dance Workshop to high school graduates, college freshmen, and now graduates of some of the most sought-after performing arts and media institutions in the country. I know we've heard this a million times. There's light at the end of the tunnel. And Dayton Dance Workshop definitely represents that. The light brightened in our world when we began our first long-term partnership with Troutwood Madison City Schools in late 2018. This partnership forged a new way for us and brought Troutwood and Dayton, Ohio, the production of the year. The Wiz premiered as the first production of the new Troutwood Performing Arts program, and Dayton Dance Workshop had the honor of presenting this A+ rated production to students and families right in the heart of our community. The success of The Wiz brought us to our first summer intensive, Strength, and thus brings us to this moment of transition. So what's next? I'm glad you asked. As you can imagine, we never anticipated this season 10 years ago, but we've done something worth celebrating. We have withstood the test of time. In this 10-year season, we are settling into our new home right here on Main Street in Troutwood. And there's so much to share, except it's too much to explain in this video. So, we're inviting you to our first annual Gala Benefit for the Performing Arts, commemorating our work in the Miami Valley over the last decade and giving you a sneak peek into our transition anniversary season.
This is the kickoff of the year.
Learn more and see our work up close and personal.
We actually, with everything going on, it was postponed.
Okay.
So the original date was March 21st,
Okay.
but now we are celebrating the kickoff of the year on April 4th,
April
2020
4th.
at the Dayton Convention Center. And that is our first annual benefit gala for the arts. And it is, of course, going to commemorate our work over the last decade with Dayton Dance Workshop in Dayton and in the performing arts and dance. And I mean, we have some phenomenal speakers that are going
Tell us
to
about some of the speakers, because I got excited about
oh my gosh.
one of them.
Listen, so of course we're going to have live music from the Darren Bell Band. And
Right.
Darren Bell, jumping back
Yes.
to the musical things, he was my first music director
Oh,
on the No
okay.
More Pressure tour. So it's Darren, and we've had a great relationship for a very long time.
He's a
So-
gifted
and
individual
he
as
is
well.
hilarious.
Yes.
Okay, so he'll be there, and then the speakers. So our keynote speaker is Patrick W. Brown, who is the protege and second eldest son of world-renowned speaker Les Brown. And so, a couple of days ago, Patrick and I had a chance to go to lunch. And, that's like a big brother. He's like a mentor. And we've had some really wonderful conversations. So sitting down at lunch, you know, I think he's the first person that I've met in my life that can understand my story from my perspective of, you know, having these big shoes to fill, or not even shoes to fill, but, you know, we're standing on the shoulders of giants. Les Brown, you know, Zapp and Roger, phenomenal African-American men and families that have literally changed the world in their industries and in entertainment. You know, you have
You're right.
like pioneers of R&B, funk, and hip hop are Zapp. And then Les Brown was doing what a lot of these younger motivational speakers were doing at a time where it was so far-fetched. He was the only one, honestly. You know, Jim Rohn and you know, these different guys. And Les Brown is a legend.
Yes, he
at
is.
50 years. You know, he's been doing it for 50 years. So to be able to expand that legacy with Patrick, and, you know, he said something really powerful while we were at lunch. He said, you know, our fathers were the dreamers. We are the fulfillment of the dream. And, you know, that's it. I just got chills again. And I was telling him, you know, the first thing that really moved me from his dad was a quote. It's an African proverb that says, if there's no enemy within, the enemy outside can do you no harm. And I used a piece of that in Praise Beyond Circumstance, which was our 2016 show at DDW. And when I heard that quote, it planted a seed that, you know, now it is a forest. You know, those seeds have bust through soil, you know, one by one, and now I can see like the fruit. And it's like there are even more seeds that have been planted and being watered, and that's how you continue to grow. So I'm really excited. Patrick is our keynote speaker, and, you know, he does some musical things too. You know, he's a MC, a rapper. He's a poet, and he infuses his rap and poetry into his speech. Because much like me, he was kind of resistant to the whole, I don't want to be a motivational speaker like my dad. But when he embraced the speaking, he realized that it was something that can really expand the people's lives that he can touch. So I'm excited about that. And then our guest speaker is Miss Terry Jackson, who is a good friend of my mom. She is also a dancer. She's always had a dream to open a dance studio. She has a bachelor's of fine arts in dance, but she's a health and wellness coach, and she's the CEO of Sisters for Self-Care. And so she's going to come and just bring the component of dance as it relates to health and wellness, you know, for women and for families, just so we can understand the impact of the arts on our families, you know, and on our students. So she's going to kind of bring that that feminine energy, and I'm also.
I'm sorry, and you can find Sisters for Self-Care on Facebook. Join us, please.
Sisters for Self-Care.
Sisters
Absolutely.
for the number 4 self-care.
Okay.
Sisters for Self-Care. So I'm excited about that. And then, of course, I'll be speaking as well. And just really talking about the journey of transition, the transition season, telling our story of Dayton Dance Workshop, and revealing our season, because we have a lot of really amazing things coming up for this 2020 season that I'm so excited about. You know, so it's a party that starts on April 4th, 2020 at the Dayton Convention Center, and it's going to go all the way through this fall. So
wonderful.
So I can't tell you though what it is.
Okay,
you know, they got to get
all
those
right.
tickets, and as of today, actually, we have about 6 tables left for the event. So, you know, I don't know when this airs, but if you, go to ddwinc.org/gala kickoff and get those tickets, because this event is going to sell out. And we're going to have fun. It's the kickoff of the year.
And we do have to really expand the fact that, you know, we can only have less than 100 people there because of the mandate from the governor.
Right.
So.
Right. I heard that just yesterday, I believe.
Yes.
But it will be wonderful. And soon, I believe God will have all of this that's going on. You know, this will be in the past. And hopefully we'll learn something from it.
Yes.
But to see this young man, and when he speaks, I pray that there will be young people, because I see your platform
That's what I wanted to
encouraging so many young people who have lost hope.
Yeah.
And when he speaks, I get chills.
Oh.
I get chills all over me. So I know God is working through him. And that just goes to show you, you know, God anoints us with our gifts. We also have jobs and careers, but a lot of times those jobs and careers are a path for us to bless other people.
Absolutely.
And share that anointing, that gift in that space that no one else would touch.
Yes.
You know, they would say, well, that does, you know, that doesn't belong here. But if we don't go,
Who will?
who will?
Who will?
You know, we are the remnant. We're the ones that are
Yes.
going to give that word to someone who may not have heard it before. So, you guys, if you haven't gotten your ticket, get your ticket if you can. And if not, I understand you take donations.
Yes, we take no donations. So Dayton Dance Workshop is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. So any donation, $5, $500, whatever you're able to do, you can make that donation online as well. And yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of donations come in so far from California, from Utah, from Georgia, just these different places where my gift and the Father really have impacted these people all over the world, and I have a lot of fans who are willing to donate from Japan and Brazil and these different places. And I'm looking forward to that. And from right here at home, because, Dayton is home. I don't see myself really going elsewhere, because I can travel to LA or Atlanta for a project, but Dayton is where my heart is because I know there's work to be done here.
Exactly. And I know you brought up your sister earlier.
Yes.
Now, is she doing all of these things like
She
her brother?
is.
Or?
So, we talk often, and, out of all of my siblings, her and I are very close, in personality and the way that we communicate with each other. And she told me recently, over the last few years, that her career path was inspired by me. When she was a kid, she wanted to be a veterinarian. And then she did her first show with me, which was Annie. And I played Rooster Hannigan. She played an orphan. And from then on, she was just like, I'm about theater, I'm about film. So she has her BFA in film. And she is a casting assistant in LA for ABC and Disney.
Wow.
And so she, she's doing amazing things, and
Stick your
I love
chest
that.
out, Mom.
Yeah, 'cause you did that, honey. You really did.
Your chest out.
I think with Loretta, she broke her her shyness when she was the lawyer.
Oh, at Omega.
At
yes.
Omega.
Yes.
What was the name?
Oh my gosh.
Sister Angie.
Yes.
Okay.
I
Davis, her
remember
mother,
her show. I
the
don't remember the name.
retrial of Jesus
Oh,
Christ.
yes,
Yep,
yes,
that's
I
what it was.
remember
And
that.
Loretta was the lawyer, and after then, and whatever he did, she did.
Yeah, we was
So
rolling.
I would go in the living room, and he has her by a leg and an arm, spinning her around because he just watched ice skating, or she's jumping out of boxes because the whole neighborhood is watching the Janet Jackson show. So then she did a two years at Full Sail University. Young people, look it up. Full Sail University.
FULLSAIL.
She got her degree in 2 years,
Yes.
and I said, you have 3 choices. You can go to New York, Atlanta, or LA. Those are you can't come back here.
Okay.
So she applied for her internship, got denied, applied for it again. Right after graduation, she was home for a couple of days, and
was
she
out and been in LA since.
got an interview. And I said, okay, I bought the ticket one way. We'll figure you stay in a hotel, and we'll figure the rest out later. So I think I've always been very supportive, not dictative. What do you want to do? And follow them according to what they said their desire was. Okay. And if they didn't like it, and we tried something else. But parents have to be hands-on. It's a huge sacrifice, but it's worth it when you hear the community give the compliments that they do. Because as mothers, we sometimes don't give ourselves credit. And I'm just learning at 51 that I did okay.
So at this time, I would like to thank you, Thomas Troutman, Tamiko Troutman, for being my guest here today. And also, I'd like to thank Karla Clay-Alexander, our musical guest. And until next time, remain in the presence of the Almighty God.